Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It's been a little bit since we did a video. The last video was on the black MR2. Quick update on that car. We actually realized the engine is probably not good because changed the plugs, did a little bit of servicing, and once it cranked that thing up, it was a lot of white smoke and it just never ran well. So the car is back to, or it's now with its rightful owner. We're probably looking at engine options at this point. But we didn't get it to run and drive as good as we had expected. It did run and drive because we were able to drive it onto the trailer. It was towed here, but we drove it onto the trailer. A lot of issues, shut off a couple of times, but nevertheless, that black car is out. So what I have today is we're working on suspension. So most of you guys probably know Uncle Kevin if you've been following the channel, and he has two MR2s. Now he wanted to go back to factory OEM spec with his suspension because he just felt like it was a much better ride. So that's what we're doing here today. We're going to rebuild a factory suspension. So I have all the parts here, OEM springs, so we're not going to lower in springs. So factory springs, as I always do, everything was restored, cleaned up, got all the rust off, put some good paint on it, so everything is looking sharp here. But what we got here are new bump stops, which are in these 4 boxes. If you want to zoom in on the item number here, you can see this is KYB. So these are all bump stops for the 4 corners. I have 2 shock tower mounts, which are for the front. So those are right in this box. You'll see everything in a second once I take it out. And then we have the factory pieces, the 2 strut, basically factory struts for the front and factory struts for the back, the housing I should say. And then in these red boxes are some KYB, XLG, as close to OEM as you can get these days because I'm pretty sure the Toyota ones are discontinued. So that is what we're working with. You could buy some Konys, but again, for the price of it, to me, it's just, over the top. But I've heard good reviews on it, so I'm not going to knock that. So this is what we're going with. I actually have this set up on the TRD, Retro TRD MR2 that I have, the one with the wrap. And it rides pretty good, so I'm very happy with it. The only difference with this setup is we're going to go with factory springs. So we got the factory OEM springs here, and hiding back here is the rear top hats for the shocks. So what the idea of today is, I'm going to go ahead and assemble these. Once you've done the one on the front, one on the rear, the other side is identical, so I'm not necessarily going to go into all 4. I'm just going to do one for the front, one for the back, so you guys see how it's done. Just in case you're curious and you're probably tuning into this because 1, you follow us, or 2, you just want to see how this procedure is done. In front of me, what I have is a big wrench. I bought this pipe wrench at Home Depot. It works very well when you're disassembling these things. So get you one of these, save you a lot of hassle when you're trying to pull this collar bolt nut right here. Because most of these things are, it's a 30-year car, so they're going to be pretty hard to get out, and that does the job. I'll show you this little rod, what I'm going to use it to do to tighten that up on the front floor. That's something new that I kind of discovered while I was pulling these apart. And then I have some spring compressors here because these are factory springs. And more than likely, I'm going to have to compress these in order to get this in without having to fight too much. So those are kind of tools which I'm working with for right now. So with that said, let's move in. We're just unbox some of these things. Let's see what we have. All right, so let's open up this bag. So here we have our gland nut. This goes right into here. This is a new one that comes with a kit. And then we have the shock nut, which basically goes on top here, but we're not ready for this guy yet, so we're gonna put it aside. So simply, I'm actually using some PB Blaster Surface Shield. I sprayed it in there, you don't have to, but I'm just doing it just to put some corrosion protection inside of here. There are some of these that they, depending on your shock, you'd fill it with like, I think it's transmission fluid or something. In our case, you don't have to fill it with anything. You just simply insert into the housing, and then you're going to install your gland nut. Now, I don't want this thing to come loose, so I'm going to tighten it with my huge wrench, but in the meantime, I'm going to put some blue Loctite. This stuff is not going to create much issues if you have to remove this, but it does help to seal it. So again, this is just an extra precaution I'm taking here. You guys, it's up to you if you want to do that, if you're doing this, but in my case, it's cheap insurance, so I'm just going to go ahead and put some blue Loctite. All right, From here, you go in, get this thing over, and you should not have to force this. So just kind of center this thing in place, and there you go. It should just thread right in, nice and easy. If it's binding, there's a problem, so I would say check that out. And that's it. Now we're gonna use our huge wrench, and I did bring in this guy because this one will not mar up the surface too much. So I'm gonna use this wrench to tighten this up. You know, I don't have, there's no torque wrench I have that I can torque this thing down. And honestly, I didn't even check the torque specs because I just don't have that type of equipment. So I'm just gonna go good and tight on this. So let's go ahead and do that. Now, this little rod, I use this because what I'm gonna do is put it through here. And what it will do, instead of me trying to fight this thing, when I'm tightening it, just having the rod, see, if it wants to shift, the rod is gonna give me a little bit of protection. So I have leverage to be able to tighten this nut. So let me show you how it works. So I'll go ahead and tighten this up. All right guys, so to simplify this, we're gonna do, well, I took away some of this stuff because I actually rebuilt the front and the rear off camera, but I'm gonna show you guys how this is done. So I have part number, this is KYB, this is the KYB XLG shock. So the one for the front, it's 356064 KYB. There you go. So we're gonna open this up. Now these are inserts. And of course this video I'm not showing, you know, how you disassemble these struts, but this is just really the assembly for this point. But here's what this shaft looks like. So KYB XLG, and it's just an insert. So you're gonna get your factory stock housing, and comes with this piece that used to hold in the factory OEM insert. We're not going to use it anymore, so you can put this away because the kit does come with its own. As you can see, it has a gland nut and the top nut for the top of the shock right here. And this is very simple. All you're going to do is insert this thing inside, and then we're going to open up our gland nut, and we're going to go screw it into here. So let's go, let's do this. So we're going to use our little rod there, like I said, when I try to put torque. So simply just go here. And it's a huge wrench, so I mean, be careful with this because, you know, you can over tighten this thing or even mess the threads up. So I'm just really freehanding this thing. It's kind of getting it nice and snug. Not gonna go crazy on it, but you do want to get it tight because if not, then this thing comes loose and you gotta pull the whole shock apart again. So there you go, and that's about what I call torqued. So let's move on. As we move to the next step, let's open up some of these boxes so we can get everything out. So as we proceed, we got everything ready to go. So this is our strut, the top hat for the front strut mount. It's SM5161 and it's a KYB product. We're gonna take it out. It does come with the nuts, and here it is. So nice and new. So there you go. So there it is, guys. So brand new ones. Now, you know, you can, the factory ones, you can clean them up right here, and you can get these things going pretty smooth. I saw a guy on YouTube, he actually did it. Never really tried it myself, but for the cost of these things, I'd say just replace it. In our case, the tops here were cracked, so we couldn't reuse them anyways, because once it's cracked, it's kind of done. So I just opted for new ones. So there you go. And it does come with the 4 nuts that goes on top here. Let's get our boot out. So this is the boot that goes on the bump stop. We're gonna get this guy out. And I'm putting all new ones because what will happen is this piece will probably be good when you disassemble. This is always eaten up. So I just figure we're doing this, we're gonna do it right. So we'll just put new ones in. And this one simply goes on right up here. It goes over. And what it's gonna do is gonna protect the cylinder here, the piston, from water damage or whatever. So just go on simply like this, slide her over, and it's looking good. All right, the next part is we gotta get our spring. So this is a factory spring. If you're doing lowering springs, You probably don't need a spring compressor. The last time I did it with Lawrence Springs, I actually used one because it does help you, but you don't have to. If you are using the factory springs, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say you're gonna definitely need a spring compressor, because if you look at this thing, when you put the spring on, let's put this on. As you can see, the piston is much lower than the spring, and we need to put our top hats on, and the only way we're gonna get it on is if we can push this thing down, and I just don't have the strength to do that, nor do you. So we gotta use spring compressors to compress the spring so we can get the rest of the pieces on. So I have set up my spring compressor here. This is gonna take some, fiddling around just to get the right position so it doesn't interfere with the housing or the hat here when you get to put it together. So I think I found the right position. So we're gonna go ahead and compress the spring. I'm gonna throw it on and keep moving. Alright guys, so needless to say, when you're using a spring compressor, you gotta be very careful. This one has some safety pins, but just take your time when you're gonna go one side at a time. Just be careful, because if this thing flies off, it can be pretty dangerous. So, be careful. That's all I can say. So now we have the top hat here. So there is a section here that says out. See that little arrow right there? So what you're gonna do is you want the arrow to point in basically this direction, and this shock has to kind of line up as well. So if you look, you see these little sleeves or cutouts. You got to get those lined up so they're parallel with this piece. So when this thing goes on, piece on the bottom here lines up, and you got the out sticking the same direction as your ears on your strut. So we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna drop this on, and this is where, however you put your spring compressors on, you gotta make sure there's enough clearance so it doesn't get in the way for when you're installing this thing. So if you got this thing, if you got a spring compressor down properly, it sits right in this little divot right here, the end of the shock. The round cylindrical section is on the bottom, and then the flat portion of the shock, as you can see right here, it's flat on the top. That's the section that goes on top. So once you get it in, make sure it's locked in. You should be able to turn this. If you turn the top hat, it should lock in place and turn the piston here on your strut assembly. So that's how you kind of know that you have it locked in place. So I'm gonna go ahead and line up this arrow. It looks to be right about, okay, and I'm gonna bring this over a little bit. So there you go. So now here's my ears and there's my arrow. So everything is perfectly lined up. And from there, I go and I take my top hat, I put it on, and now we're on home stretch. I can stop worrying a little bit because at least I have this nut locked on. So worst case, if this spring clamp flies, it's gonna be bad, but it's not gonna be too bad. So we'll go ahead, take your 19mm socket, and we're gonna run this nut down. And then we're gonna come back, we're gonna torque this nut to 36 foot-pounds. But what we wanna do is just run it down a little bit here, and then we're gonna remove our spring compressor. So I'm just holding the top hat in place here, making sure it's still aligned, and then turning it. If I don't hold it, it will probably spin on me until I get this nut down, because the nut will basically spin the piston of the shock. All right, so that's nice and snug. Hasn't been torqued yet, but now we're gonna start to remove our spring compressors. So let's put it on gently. And when you're doing this, don't throw things down, just take your time, move it slowly. I'm gonna take this out little by little. I'm still gonna go slow, not gonna go fast. So I'm gonna go ahead and slowly take out my spring. I'm just gonna work both sides. In this case, I can't get a socket on, so I'm gonna have to do it by hand. So you guys get the basic idea. You just take your time and just keep moving with this thing. This is probably a good time to put my little rod in again and just keep working at this thing here. this is the hardest part really, is just these spring clamps, and it's kind of nerve-wracking because you don't want anything to fly off and hurt you or anything like that. So just, like I said, be careful. But then you want to make sure the spring now seats nice and even with the rubber boot. So that's looking good there. It's in the groove right here. So that little slit in the shock, you want to make sure it goes in so it locks in place. And the bottom part seats in this little groove right here. Hopefully you guys can see that. See, there's a little stop right there. So you get that in. Now we're going to go ahead. We're going to torque this nut down to 36 foot-pounds. And here is my out arrow. And again, lines up with the ears on our strut housing. So let's go ahead and torque this. I'm going to put this down flat. And this little bar came in pretty handy. Before I was putting it on a vise, which I have a very small vise. If you have a vise, that works too. But a vise is going to mess up your paint if you're painting your strut. In my case, I painted it. I don't want to mess it up. So I put it in, and again, it prevents it from turning on you. I use these pliers, which has these two little 90-degree bends here, and I kind of stick it into, there are these little holes in the hat right here, so I kind of use that there, and then I use my torque wrench. And what I'm doing, the reason I'm doing this, if I don't hold this thing in place, what happens is my little arrow turns on me. So my out arrow, which is right here, it will turn. So I use this wrench to hold it in place, and then I just kind of torque it. So this just one thing I learned doing this at 36 foot-pounds, and that's it. Now I didn't go crazy, and my arrow is still in line with my ears. So technically this is done. Look at how smooth that is. That's the beauty of getting new parts. There's a little cap that we put on right over here. Find it. Where did I put it? There we go. So now you just take your cap and put it in place. Now, these are aftermarket strut hats, so it doesn't fit. But what I'm going to do is, I got this little O-ring. I'm going to put the O-ring over here. If you have an O-ring kit, and that's going to give me enough space. So this thing goes in and it's snug. I'm just going to press this in, and that is how you get a factory finish with aftermarket parts. There you go. So the front shock is done. We're going to move on to the rear, and this is looking good. You know, this is the beauty of when I do this stuff. I'd love to see, you know, old parts that just look brand new again. Everything nice and painted. This kit actually came off the 2G MR2 that I did the Bob Fam coilovers on. They were totally shot, and here they are back to life, looking great again. So let's move on. Let's go get the rears done. All right, guys, so hopefully that went pretty smooth for you guys, and it was straightforward. Again, the hardest thing is really just the spring compressors and the risk of that thing flying off. So here's our rear strut insert 365100. That's the part number, KYB XLG, which is right here. And if you want to tell the difference, you can't really mix this up because one is longer than the other one. The longer shocks belong in the back, and of course your housing is longer as well. So that's part of the reason why it's longer. Kind of makes sense. So we're gonna do the same thing. We are gonna remove our old gland nut from the factory kit. When we disassembled it, I already sprayed my surface shield in here to prevent corrosion in the future, because we're trying to keep this thing for another 30 years. And you're gonna go ahead, you're gonna drop your insert in, as easy as that. And now we get our new gland nut, and we're gonna thread this thing in. Remember, I use Loctite. It's not necessarily recommended, I just chose to do it. So you guys can either follow me or do your own, as I mentioned on the first one. All right, just like the front, you want to put this thing over, and you want to make sure you get it nice and centered, and it should just thread in very smooth. Shouldn't have to fight it. Again, if you got to fight it, you got to try again. Or quite possibly your housing is damaged from when you removed it, which happens. That's why sometimes you see these things online for sale. You know, people take them off, the thread get damaged because it's rusted or for whatever reason. was over tightened, so sometimes you gotta buy a new one if that thread is gone. In our case, it is great. It's looking good. So we're gonna go ahead. We're gonna use our little bar again. Put it through. And we're gonna tighten this thing up. All right, next step, like the front, so you wanna get your bump stop on. So you simply slide this on. And get it all the way down. And then we're gonna move on to our spring. So again, the springs, just so you guys know, there's a cylindrical portion right here, and then there's a flat section. The flat section goes on top, so it's gonna go in here. But just like the front, these are factory springs, so we're gonna have to compress them. Now the good news is, these are a lot easier because you have a lot more coils here to work with. So you just get this in. We're gonna bring them down like we did the fronts. Gonna slip it on, and then we're gonna put on our top hat. Our top hat is a little bit different. It's a top hat, but has 3 bolts versus 4 in the front. Then you have the spacer that goes in here, and then a nut on top. But more to come, we'll get that in. Let's get the spring compressed. All right, so time to get the spring compressors off. Again, the rear's really fun to do because it's easy. So there you go. And get our locks out. That one is out. And let's see. Now these spring compressors, you can get them at like Harbor Freight. They're all the same. So there you go. We got this done. Now let's go ahead and torque this to 35 foot-pounds. Now we're done. Here's my setup for tightening this. I just use a pry bar to block it against here. Now this is locked onto the rod or the piston for the insert, so it's not going to turn on us. And you just simply go across and get it to 35 foot-pounds. All right, we're done. Let's put everything together. Let's show you guys the final product and close this up. So that was not a very difficult project. It was actually a fun afternoon just putting this together. You know, the hardest part about it is the Florida heat, but we all can get over that. As a matter of fact, you know, I probably should not be complaining because, you know, we had a lot better than a lot of folks up north. North Florida into North Carolina, Tennessee, all these years I got affected by Hurricane Helene. So if you guys watch my channel and you're in these neighborhoods and you were affected, you know, I hope you guys get back up and it wasn't too bad. And if it was, you know, speedy recovery and clean up for you guys. But yeah, that was it. We got the OEM struts rebuilt. I did get some new front end links because we're actually swapping out Tane suspension for these, going back to factory, and the Tanes have their own end links. So I got some factory replacements. So I'm just gonna throw these in, but there it is. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll just show a B-roll of our struts right here. They look pretty good. It almost looks brand new. And these by no means looked anywhere close to how they're looking right now. So it just shows that with a lot of little effort, sometime you can actually turn parts that look like they should be thrown away into something that's actually pretty valuable. So with that said, guys, that's kind of like the purpose of our channel here. We take old MR2s, rebuild them, make them better, and have fun doing it. So with that said, I'll catch you guys on the next one. Have a great day.